the strength, you're all I need. Oh, gonna give it a shot, only one of me, to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero. Like
All right. Welcome. Hello, Jeff. Hello, LA. See you on the chat. For those of you, if this is your first time, my name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel. I usually do true crime and I do a lot of different types of live stream because it's investigative on different areas. Tonight, I'm going to focus on the understanding the stimulant of methamphetamine. I'm going to go through a PowerPoint and I'm going to discuss some stories that I've been exposed to throughout the times, you know, and because I've seen a lot of individuals that have been captured by the methamphetamine bug. And a lot of these crimes, they have drug implications. They might even be drug dealing or selling or any of that type of stuff. So you just never know. It's always a great thing to be informed um, on the dangers of drugs, especially this one. Because once you get hooked on this one, most of the time the battle is real. And I'm gonna go ahead and start the the PowerPoint because it's a long one. First, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Rondi, Jeff, LA, Paula, welcome. And hopefully more people come and join us. If you do come in and join the chat, please understand that we like a calm chat. We enjoy agreeing to disagree, and we also like to believe and feel that everybody's opinion is valid because you just never know who has walked in these shoes, who is sober now, who has been in these shoes and overcome the addiction. And it's a battle. It's a battle. So let me go ahead and bring up the PowerPoint. And I think I have this all my streams on subscriber mode only, and that's why there's not a lot of people in the chat. And I did that because I was having a lot of individuals come in um, just randomly and causing chaos. And that's the last thing that I want on the stream is chaos. Let me know if y'all can see that. I can make it a little bigger. So let's start off. Crystal methamphetamine. What is amphetamine? Crystal is a form of amphetamine that is in the glass or shard uh, component, and it will show a picture later on to show you exactly what we're talking about. So, amphetamine is a synthetic drug to stimulate the heart and respiration. It constricts the blood vessels and induces sleeplessness. So, I bet people didn't know that. It was first synthesized in Germany in 1887, originally marked as Benzedrine in the 1920s, and was used for suppressing appetite and preventing narcolepsy. Were available over the counters and quickly became a favorite street drug known as pep pills or bennies. They were used by U.S. Air Force during World War II to keep pilots awake on long missions. At the end of World War II, 2% of Japanese adults were dependent on amphetamines. That's how addicting they are because, whenever you're feeling that euphoria of the drug, in the very beginning, it's such a rush that it makes you feel happy. It makes you feel motivated. It makes you feel vibrant and awake. But once you start to come down off this drug, it totally wipes you out. And like any other drug, you have to keep up with the use in order to not have the dope sick feeling. It's reportedly used in brainwashing by governments in the 1950s. Late 50s, people were injecting content of benzodrine inhalers. And up until probably the early 90s or whatever, those inhalers did have some of that benzodrine that you could get over the counter because it would, if somebody was having an asthma attack or something, it would constrict the lungs and the blood vessels enough for them to start breathing. So, but people started abusing it. Performance enhancing drug by athletes severely restricted the beginning in the 1950s. Period of meth epidemic in the 1950s, late 60s, and a third epidemic started in the mid 90s. Now available by low dose prescription, generally used to treat ADD, narcolepsy, and to control weight. I don't know if they prescribe this anymore for weight control because of the addictive quality, but ADD, and think of it like this. For me, if I drink a cup of coffee and it's strong, I'm instantly focused and wide awake. Okay. But then within 30 minutes of that awake feeling, I'm crashing and burning. So that focus tells me that I have a problem with attention, attention deficit. It's a problem. Never been diagnosed, never went to the doctor for any of that. But any type of stimulant that I've ever taken, instantly I feel out of this world, whether it be pre workout, whether it be, you know, all those drinks, whether it be this. I don't know if y'all can see this. Let me see. I can never get it in the camera. It's called Celsius. So anything that gives you a pick me up, but I crash so freaking hard on it. So I try not to use it. The Celsius has mostly caffeine in it, so I try not to use those as much as possible because of the heart problems and everything else. So what is methamphetamine? It's a chemical variation became a common street drug known as speed in the 1960s, which was usually taken in pill form. It is white or off-white, odorless, bitter-tasting crystalline powder that is easily dissolved in water. Has a much stronger stimulant effect on the central nervous system. So if you have a stimulant, it's going to impact the central nervous system and it's going to kind of like light it up like a Christmas tree, where the depressant will shut it down. It'll put you in a different mindset, a different mode of addressing your issues while you're taking these drugs. It is more addictive than the original drug. And you ask why would that be more addictive than the original? What are the effects of the methamphetamine? It provides the user with a sustained energy, a general sense of well being, increasing alertness and wakefulness, and it masks the body's need for food, water, or rest. So if you were in my live last night, I was talking with Nina and we were discussing drug addiction in our past and some of the stuff that we've used. And we brought up this drug. And she would tell me that she worked harder, she cleaned and everything else. And she started a lot of projects, but got very little of them done. Me, on the other hand, I can complete things, but my problem is I forget things. Like my mind is going so fast that I'm completing, but I'm forgetting at the same time. So hey Rodney, thank you for being here. So it is a problem in many areas, because of the psychedelic effect. They're mixing stuff with this because not only do you get the increasing alertness and wakefulness, if you get too overamped, many times you smoke some weed, you drink, whatever, but it takes a while for it to come down. So the latest thing that I've noticed is people are using fentanyl with this. And that's very dangerous because you get the wrong dose of fentanyl and you're goodbye forever. You know, like I said, it can be snorted or smoked, that is, dissolved in water and drunk or injected. Yeah, you can snort it, you can eat it, swallow it, inject it, and the effect can last from 6 to 12 hours or more. And can you imagine somebody on this stuff that was zooming around for 6 to 12 hours? And let's say that they were enjoying that kind of mindset. Do you think that they would be so kind to say, well, I'm going to go to sleep now? Probably not, because most people, and I say most because these conversations that I'm having, people um, they react to these drugs differently. So not everybody reacts the same way. Okay, so this is a generalized type of understanding on what we're talking about. But I've heard later on in your addiction, you can sleep on it. Like it doesn't give you the same effects as before, and especially if you have a weaker type of drug that you're taking, because during the 90s this stuff was really strong, I heard, and hardcore, and it's gotten weaker over the years, but it's still potent, it's still an addictive thing. So imagine not being able to sleep. You're staying up all night, all day, all night, all day, and then you start to hallucinate because your body is trying to shut down, and this stimulant will not let it. So you start seeing things, you start hearing things, you start believing things that aren't real. And why did this become detrimental? Because most drug addicts that are on this drug, they start off using it and they end up cooking it and selling it to support their habits. So they don't get robbed. They start setting up cameras everywhere. They start buying weapons. So imagine somebody who's on a psychotic binge on this stuff, hasn't slept for days, believes that, there's cops, the task force, anybody that showed up to the house, even if they know them, they start becoming paranoid of these individuals. So if an individual is on a binge, so to speak, they could hurt somebody really badly, even if they've known them for years. Now available by low dose prescription form as dexedrine or desoxyl, and generally used to treat ADD, narcolepsy, and to control weight. Methamphetamine street terms, and these are kind of dated, so they probably don't call them this anymore. Biker's coffee, poor man's cocaine, shabu, speed, trash, yellow bam, glass, Tina, Methley's quick chalk, chicken feed, crank, dove top, go fast, crystal, batu, or ice clear wash. So I've heard it called speed, I've heard it called Tina, I've heard it called crank and crystal, but not so much some of these other names. So it's probably dated a little bit. So what is crank? Crank is a smelly yellow form of meth that is usually snorted, the cheapest form of the drug. What is lith? I would venture out to say lith is a short term for lithium, which is in the batteries that are used to to extract the binders off the ephedra pills to release the ephedra from the binders. It could be long. Short for lithium taken from batteries in the manufacturing process. It comes in a paste form that is usually smoked. More expensive than crank, but cheaper than the crystal form. Okay. You know, I've gone to probably three or four trainings, and they did everything but complete the cook. They showed us how to do um, cooking without the phosphorus, without all that. The shake and bake, all that stuff. I mean, they showed us pretty much how to do it, but these were law enforcement. So we got to learn how to make it. Do I remember how to make it? But no. Crystal methamphetamine. So crystal meth history. There is not just one street form of the drug. likely created in Asia in the late 1980s and then surfaced in California in the 1990s. It comes in a clear, chunky crystals, which are then inhaled or smoked. In Hawaii are primarily two types. There's clear, which is white and highly refined, and wash, which is brown and washed using acetone and alcohol to improve its appearance. And then you have blue, which is like the Breaking Bad stuff. So I heard that's the good, this stuff all Breaking Bad, that was the good. I'm just kidding. But we have clear and we have wash. And crystal methamphetamine, this is what crystal looks like. Like I was telling you earlier, it looks like shards of broken glass. It looks like, what you generally do is you break these shards down until it becomes almost like a powder. You add water and you can stick it in that pipe that's behind me and you rotate it round and round and you smoke it. And you say, wow, that's interesting to know. How could somebody get hooked on this stuff? Well, what this does, I wish I had a blackboard or, was able to have a whiteboard to show you. But what methamphetamine does in the brain is there's two neurotransmitters like this. It releases dopamine, serotonin, and it gets reuptaked over here. So this is going, there's stuff going right here. And the neurotransmitters are what causes the emotional reactions and everything else. So methamphetamines, when it's going through the system, it's released. And what it does is when it's reuptaked, it plugs the synaptic cleft, meaning that it just sits there and pings around and it gives you that feeling of euphoria. So what ends up happening to your neurotransmitters is they die. And most people, whenever they've been using this drug for a long time, I'm not saying everybody, but most people, whenever they've been using this drug for a long time, they have damage in these neurotransmitters that cause them from exhibiting any type of happiness. Because on the dopamine and serotonin, they're bouncing off, like this because they're not being reuptake. This neurotransmitter is creating even new ventricles to absorb it, and what's happening is the meth chemicals is blocking that from being reuptake, and that's the 6 to 12 hour radius of the high. That makes any types of sense. So crystal meth, tools used to smoke crystal meth, and there's the pipe that I was talking about. So there's the crystal and there's the pipe. These are sold in any convenience store. You can make your own, you know, and these are generally what people get busted with on the street. Not that much. They usually get busted with a gram to 3 grams of meth because anything 4 or more, at least here in Texas, it increases your possibility to go to prison longer. And that's another thing. If you don't know what a gram is, I've been told that, you get a dollar bill, you get a $5 bill, and you fold it in half, and the crease, whatever you dump in the crease, that is a gram of dope. Or it's measured out. But most people don't have a lot of time to measure this stuff out. So they find ingenious ways to scale it up. What is crystal meth? Crystal meth has become the most widespread and popular form of the drug. The user immediately experiences an intense rush, also called a flash, that causes intense pleasure lasting a few minutes. The high could be 3 to 6 hours. Users can become quickly addicted and dependent. Swallowing 20 to 30 minutes, smoking a 7 to 10 second Shooting, which would be intravenously, would be 15 to 30 seconds. Oh, oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't know they were going to put this in here, but a booty bump is directly into the rectum, absorbed into the walls of the anus, into the bloodstream. Hot railing, basically nasal, 7 to 10 seconds. In many areas, crystal meth is cheaper at $10 for a point, or about 1/10 of a gram. So I was telling you a gram, but basically what you fold a dollar and the crease is a whole gram. So a point would be about 1/10 of that. So you break that down, and that's how much it would be. An ecstasy hit or tablet can cost twice as much, about $20. So ecstasy is MDMA, and it pretty much interacts with the brain about the same way, but it causes the body to overheat. It causes extreme dehydration in people. And in the 90s, there were raves. There were, a lot of things that people would get involved in. You go to a rave, you pop a X pill, you dance, you feel in love with people. It heightened the senses, and you would have a great time. You'd be dehydrated, and people fall out when you. I mean, think about being dehydrated just normally. When you're dehydrated normally, you feel like you're about to pass out. You feel dizzy. You feel all these effects, and it's not a good thing. So let's talk about how crystal meth is produced. It can be easy to produce in a small clandestine lab, sometimes in the kitchen or a bathroom. So in some of these other cases that where people were talking about drugs being you know sold or stored, you know um, flushed down the toilet. Pills could have been fentanyl pills. They could have been X pills. It could have been Molly, which is meth and cocaine wrapped in a pill form that's bonded together by what they call as fillers. To bond the chemical or the two powders together so that's easily swallowed and then able to be injected into the bloodstream quickly. But let's talk about crystal. Crystal is produced by mixing a cocktail of about 15 substances, mostly pseudoephedrine, a cold remedy, red phosphorus and iodine, but also including ammonia, paint thinner, ether, Drano, and the lithium from batteries. The instruction can be easily found via the internet, but the manufacturing process can be dangerous and causes fires. Exactly, because if you don't know what you're doing, while you're extracting the ephedra from these capsules by putting all these chemicals together and shaking them up and heating them up and all this other stuff, if you don't know what you're doing, you're emitting all these chemical vapors into the room. And there's been many labs that have been known to explode. But I was watching a video one time for work, and they were talking about how many apartments that you might rent or houses that could have residue of methamphetamine because it's so hard to get out of carpets, out of the walls. If you've ever been in a house and you start to feel sick, or it could be anything, but there's been traces of you know small children crawling around on the floor, and CPS being called on the house, and these children have traces of methamphetamines in their bodies, and they're taken from the person. Hey Twizzle, thanks for joining us. Law enforcement officials say an investment of about 150 can yield up to $10,000 worth of the drug. Like I said, these statistics are probably outdated. It's probably more now or less because meth has flooded the border and it's almost everywhere. So, you know, these prices might not um, be relevant today in 2024. Hello, Kim, Carlos. Um, so, who uses crystal meth? When we're talking about addiction, experts say crystal meth first became a popular in poor areas of rural North America for a number of reasons. It was cheap, high, and in initial stages of use, it actually gave the energy that allowed the user to keep working. It was also considered cool by young people who did not have big city connection to other street drugs. I used to have my high school sweetheart. Um, I didn't know this. I was so naive back then. But she used to go and buy Actifed, right? And if you, in the old days, in the early 90s or late 80s, Actifed had pseudoephedrine in it. So she was basically getting hooked on that high, because she was always stuffy or, stopped up or whatever. And as I told you in the very beginning, the ephedra in the meth, it constricts blood vessels and opens up the bronchial tube. So when she would take this pill, man, she would be like all over the place and moody and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't have a clue because I didn't know what the hell she was taking. I had never taken Actifed. Um, so, it was something that's interesting to look back on and think, wow, she might have been hooked on the initial stages of that. Twizzle, I watched your to get off topic really quick. I watched you on DTS, a replay. Boy, you were giving him the smoke, bro. He was not really knowing what to say, and I'm glad that you were able to articulate it in a way where you didn't lose your temper or anything like that. I mean, I liked how you said what you said, and good job, good job. I don't have anything against Daniel, but as far as all that stuff that was said that night on that panel, it just a lot of it just, as a lot of people like to call fiction, 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 fiction. We don't want to hear fiction, but yet when you bring facts, a lot of times people can't take it. So good job. I just wanted to tell you good job. Anyways, it says that addiction experts say crystal meth first became popular in the rural North American areas. And there's a lot of reasons why, because if you're living in rural America, it's easy to get away with cooking it, just like the old days when people were making moonshine. Where did they do it? They didn't do it in the big cities. They did it in the middle of the woods and in the mountains and, wherever they would not be seen. But what happens when these individuals use all these chemicals? They do the chemical dumps in the rivers, in the lakes, and they contaminate water. And also, like I was saying, they could burn down their houses and kill themselves and all this other stuff. So it's not a real good process to be doing this in the woods. One thing about methamphetamine, and I'm going to give you a little insight if you don't already know. You can always tell more often than not. I mean, it could be, I'm being very general here. Um, Whenever methamphetamine is being cooked, there's a cat litter urine odor to it. So whenever that happens, you know, there's something going on. There's an area, there's a cook going on, there's something going on with this type of addiction, or um, the meth cook going on. It says in Hawaii, some people attribute directly the rise in crystal meth use to the major marijuana eradication program in recent history. So, who uses crystal meth? According to mental health workers, police, and research scientists, the people who use crystal meth include large numbers of rural and small town poor across North America, some young people in the rave and dance scene with the MDMA, GHB, some young people who want to lose weight, gay males involved in the dance scene, or who frequent bathhouses. And they were also saying that, um, the HIV epidemic was kind of tied with this because, the homosexual community would use these drugs to enhance the pleasure of the sexual activity. So, not only the homosexual community, but the heterosexuals as well. But as it says there, the dancing and frequent bathhouses. So it was very early on that a lot of these drugs were being used for addition to other things. Um, and here is amphetamine versus methamphetamine over here in Seattle. And like I said, this map is probably outdated. Um, I don't know what 18 means, so it doesn't say concentration of crystal meth. So I would say maybe counties, 18 counties, 33 versus amphetamine in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, Dallas, New Orleans, Atlanta, Miami, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philly, all the way up the East Coast, New York, Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and St. Louis, and Denver. So you look at this map, me working with addicts for so long, I had to, I was exposed to a lot of things. Um, and one thing that I was prevalent to the information from a lot of them was that the drugs that were coming through Texas came through this area right here. If you can see my pointer, through this area, they came through the hill country right here over in West Texas, kind of down on along 10. They'd come through here, go through Dallas, come back down, and then recycled, and then all the way up the pipeline up into the East Coast. And then there'd be 20, I 20, all the way this way, all the way this way. And that's how the drugs were being distributed. Yeah, that might be. I mean, it doesn't say, so it's this concentration. So I don't know if that might be the arrest. I don't know. I just assumed it might be counties. Who knows? But that's an interesting map, even if it is a little dated. So we talked about ice and batu, which is crystal meth. There's two forms where it's clear, white in color, highly refined, most prevalent. It looks like shards of glass, like I showed you. And then there's wash, brown tint, less highly refined, and wash with alcohol acetone, less expensive. So there's always the higher quality stuff, and then there's the lower quality stuff, like the generic brand, if you will. Decrease of meth price from a high of $10,000 an ounce in '97 to $2,500 an ounce in 2000. So you say, well, how did that happen? That happened because the influx of methamphetamine into that area, there's so much of it, there's not a lot of supply and demand, so the price goes down. So 1 gram of ice equal to plus or negative 30 doses, 1 gram in Honolulu was $300. In Hawaii County was $250, and Maui $350, and Kauai County $500. And you can imagine that it was that much because they're way over there, so it's not like you can just get methamphetamine around the corner. You know what I mean? And I told you 1 gram is you fold a dollar bill or a $5 bill, and a little crease is the gram. So that's not a lot. That's not a lot. I need to look into that. Twizzle. It says crystal meth in Hawaii. 38% of all arrestees in Honolulu tested positive for ice. 38%. That's quite a bit. 29% in Sacramento and 28% in San Jose. National Arrestee Drug Abuse Monitoring Program in 2001. Hawaii has nation's highest rate of adults who have tried ice, the Department of Health. Ice replaced alcohol, primary substance used by Hawaiian adults in treatment programs. But I can tell you in 2004 to 2007, that was an epidemic like no other. I was working in North Texas area, Dallas, south of Dallas, that area. Man, they were busting people for meth, cooking, and dealing, and you name it. It was it was through the roof. It seemed like they were giving out 30, 40, 50 years like it was candy for this stuff. And the times that they give for manufacture and delivery here in Texas is pretty mind blowing. I don't know how it would be in your state if they're lenient on drug manufacturing, delivering, or possession, or anything like that. But here in Texas, there's certain counties that, man, it's almost like a death sentence. They want this stuff off their streets, but they can't get it all. That's the thing. It says deaths attributed to crystal meth have doubled in 2 years. They have surpassed those related to alcohol. Because if it surpassed alcohol, that tells you how severe of a problem it is. Because alcohol has always been the number one killer of people because of the addictive process. Um, yeah, I was talking about that, and that's another problematic area of this thing because you have homes blowing up, catching on fire, and you wonder how is this happening. Nationally, 14% of sentenced traffickers were involved with methamphetamine in 2001. In Hawaii, the rate was 51%. That's huge. So these are the sources. During the year 2000, methamphetamine treatment or admissions accounted for 4.1% of total admissions, or 66,052 admissions. And you wonder why it's so high because think of it like this. You know, when you're coming down off meth, you say, well, there's really not much of a withdrawal from that. And you're right. You get sleep, you get hydrated, you eat, this, that, and the other. But the psychosis that comes along with it, because you just never know how it was cooked. Whether people put stuff in there to make you psychotic acting or things of that nature, then you're going to need inpatient treatment because when you're coming down, you knew that you were feeling fine before you even started using meth, but now that you're getting off of it, you can't function for whatever reason. So that's why these numbers are so high. In Hawaii, of 28,601 11th and 12th graders surveyed, 1.8% used meth at least once in the last 30 days. Those admitted for methamphetamine and amphetamine related complications were primarily white, 79%, and male, 53%. Look at that as far as this number right here. 1.8 used meth at least once in the past 30 days. of 28,601 11th and 12th graders. So that were juniors and seniors. I would say that's pretty high. But, you know, I work with that age range, and I can probably tell you that meth is not very prevalent. It's weed. Weed just trumps everything. But meth is a problem in a lot of rural areas. You know, it says youth risk behavior surveillance 2001 study 9.8 of high school students had used methamphetamine within their lifetime. Overall, white 11.4% and Hispanic 9.1%. Students were more likely than black students, 2.1%, to report lifetime methamphetamine use. Yeah, Hispanics are mostly drinkers and weed smokers. And African Americans, I would say, and I'm not being stereotypical, but just on statistics, are more drinkers and weed users as well. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, results from the 2002 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, more than 12 million people aged 12 and older, 5.3%, reported they had used methamphetamine at least once in their lifetime. More than 12 million people aged 12 and older. And that was in 2002. So we're 20 years into that. So that number has to be higher than that. 597,000 persons aged 12 and older, 0.3%, reported past month use of methamphetamine. And we know why people are using it, to stay up, to feel happy. Because for whatever reason, the juveniles that I work with, they stay up all night playing video games and their sleep pattern is off. So the serotonin in their body is going to affect them. There's going to be a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. So if they start using methamphetamine, what it does, it gives them the placebo of a euphoric, energized state of mind. But what happens is they start falling off because your body can only go 150 miles an hour for so long. And usually it's 3 days. The most I've ever heard, and I don't know if it was embellished, but this person told me they had stayed up for 3 weeks straight. I can't imagine what kind of position that person was in 3 weeks in. You say, I feel like we haven't seen as many crazy cases like we did for a while, people passing out in cars because of it. Yeah, exactly. Ups, not UOs of all time for spell check not to work. Better than flashbangs doing it. Yeah, that's true. We had a few blow ups and haven't heard of any for a while. You know, that's that's amazing that these drugs do so much damage to people and still they believe that it's not going to happen to them because at that age you have that feeling of invincibility. You have that feeling that it's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get hooked. I can try this for a little bit. It can help me pass my grades. It can help me, enjoy sex better, whatever it might be, excel on the football field, whatever. But just like everything else, you come crashing down because your body cannot sustain that intensity. It said, what are the short term effects of methamphetamine use? Elevated mood, induced euphoria, increased alertness, reduced fatigue, increased energy, decreased appetite, increased movement and speech, increased alertness and wakefulness, a sense of increased personal power, and sexual prowess. Mirrors body's natural fight or flight, slows digestion, and increases alertness and concentration. Like the people that I've seen that are either on it or have been on it for a long time, they have tics. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but they might be talking and constantly licking their lip, or they're on their phone, and they might not even be high. And it's just something that they've done for so long. Their motor skills have kept that going, even though they're no longer on the drug. I live in a nice neighborhood, Twid, but we had a guy go crazy a few blocks away through the woods, was shooting a neighbor's flashbangs were probably used then. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, most of these individuals that use this have weapons, guns, shotguns, whatever. And it says, unfortunately, there's also a downside. The same process produces increased blood pressure, heart rate, and sweating, and can cause anxiety, irritability, insomnia, paranoia, and sometimes even psychosis, which all the drug can do that. If even weed, and I don't want to get into the weed effects because I know that some of you use it, and I'm not preaching to you, but it can, all kinds of drugs are not healthy for you in the long term. Once the high wears off, mental and physical exhaustion set in, often with a deep depression and sometimes include thoughts of suicide. Here are the signs of continued crystal meth use: grinding your teeth, no sleep for 2 to 3 days, dramatic weight loss, paranoia, aggressive behavior, extreme energy, mass body's need for food, lack of inhibitions, euphoria, hallucinations, auditory or visual, obsessive picking of the face or body. So if you ever see people with scabs or open wounds that they continue to pick at, that's another thing. Once you get clean, for whatever reason, people continue to pick at their faces. They pick at their arms, and they have these deep gouges. So let's talk about crystal meth and sex. Does crystal meth cause better sex? There is no direct connection between the use of crystal meth and better sex. As a stimulant, however, crystal meth stimulates your libido and enhances sexual sensation. Crystal meth can increase your self-confidence and lower your inhibition. For many people, sex under the influence of crystal meth rapidly leads to an incredibly strong association between the two, which is hard to break. One without the other can become inconceivable. More longer, rougher sex can expose a person to HIV, Hep C, and Hep B. What are the long-term effects of methamphetamine use? This causes long-lasting changes in your brain chemistry, like I told you. Your neurotransmitters burn out, and even though they've said recently that the neurotransmitters can grow back with long-term sobriety, it takes a long time to get them back. Changes impact cognitive abilities such as memory, judgment, reasoning, and verbal learning. Changes do not reverse themselves quickly. It takes many months away from the drug before your brain begins to heal. Other long-term effects include frequent bouts of drug craving, frequent agitating dreams of using crystal, or frequent frustration dreams of being unable to use. These take many months to fade away. They say usually during the first 90 days is when all this happens. And if you can make it clean and sober for the first year, then your chances are increased that you're going to be able to beat it. You know, um, it says, is it possible to overdose from methamphetamines? Of course. Any drug you can overdose. You might not die, but you can overdose from any type of drug. Yes, one can fatably overdose from the use of methamphetamine. Death from methamphetamine overdose is associated with the rapid onset of kidney failure and collapse of the circulatory system. A large percentage of patients who die usually have symptoms of coma, shock, inability to pass and secrete urine, and muscle twitching. Can addicts recover? Experts say that crystal meth is one of the most addictive street drugs and one of the hardest to treat. So true. Addiction counselors say the relapse rate of 92% is worse than cocaine. And you're right, I've seen it. And that's why I decided to talk on this because this is my field, this is what I do. There are no pharmacological treatments for methamphetamine dependence. Antidepressant medication can be used to combat the depressive symptoms of withdrawal. The most effective treatment for methamphetamine addiction is cognitive behavioral intervention. That means you change the thinking, you change the action, you change the behavior. So if your thinking changes, the action is going to follow, and then your behavior is going to follow after that. This modifies the patient's thinking, expectancies, and behavior while increasing coping skills to deal with life stressors. Those who do manage to recover from addiction and retain memory and the ability to function in society are usually subject to some memory gaps and extreme mood swings, like I was saying earlier. So, why is there an association between crystal and viruses like HIV and hepatitis? Well, we were talking about intravenous drug use, so think about that a little bit. If you're sharing needles, because most addicts, when they get to that form, when they're shooting, they don't have time to go get clean needles. And usually they're around another person, so they're sharing these needles, and they're not usually the cleanest. I've heard of people cleaning their works in rainwater, in puddles of rainwater, or you know, even if you bleach them, you're not going to get all the blood out of the cylinder, and it could, be infected, or it could end up causing you to get upset. The association between meth and HIV transmission is related to the tendency to engage in unprotected and uninhibited sex while under the influence of meth, the risk associated with injection drug use for those who shoot speed. Hepatitis B can be transmitted through unprotected sex or through sharing of syringes and injection supplies. Hepatitis C is mostly transmitted through blood or blood contact, usually by sharing syringes or other injection equipment. So you don't know who you're having sex with after a while. Let's say you're throwing a party at your house, and there's all these people that always come over, and you all have drugs, and you end up hooking up, and before long, you could be spreading a lot of unhealthy things really quickly. It says gay men who use meth have much higher rate of HIV prevalence than gay men who don't use speed. Number of studies found meth use and HIV 2 to 4 times higher in gay men or men who have sex with men. For people living with HIV, even occasional use of crystal can lead to a lapse in taking HIV medications and drop the T cells. So that is the end of the PowerPoint. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you enjoyed the information and that it gave you a little bit of an insight on exactly what this drug is all about and how it's so associated with criminal activity and how it's associated with individuals, especially at a younger age, to want to try this because of the euphoria, because of the feeling of opening up your senses for the first time. And they used to say back in the day, and I thought I'd never say that, but you know, back in the day, they used to say that, there was a saying that you're chasing the dragon, you know, and chasing the dragon basically means that you're trying to get the same high that you experienced the very first time, and you'll never get it. Even even abstinence for a long period of time, you'll never achieve the first time that you got high or that you got drunk. You'll never achieve that. And that's part of the addictive process because you're chasing that high. I didn't discuss tolerance. Tolerance is basically whenever you're using something over and over and it takes more and more to get the same effects. So let's say you're using methamphetamine the first time that you snorted it. You may have snorted a little bit of a line, and it just blew your mind for 8 hours. So the second time you snorted it, you expected the same result. Well, this time it only lasted 6 hours, and then 4 hours, and then 2 hours. So you were constantly chasing that high because you didn't want to come down. You didn't want to. It's kind of like the same thing with prescription drug use. That's how people get hooked on prescription drug meds, because the pain is so intense that they're chasing the half life. So if it says two every 4 to 6 hours and it starts to go away at hour number three, then they're chasing it at 2 hours and 45 minutes, and they're doubling up a lot of time. So before long, you don't realize how many or how much medication you're taking, because you're chasing anything to not feel that pain. That's why a lot of people look sedated under pain medication, and they're constantly, they're telling you, I hurt, I'm in pain, I hurt, I hurt, I hurt. But do they really hurt, or are they just chasing the memory of the pain they're trying not to feel? You get what I'm saying? So this happens with addiction to other chemicals as well. Is there's emotional pain and there's physical pain. So you're trying to chase or have the drug wipe out that feeling to change the way you feel before it wears off. So that's where the tolerance buildup is. And the withdrawals are very, very real. And you have to be mindful that they're cutting these with all kinds of things. Like I said, individuals that are usually have mental health issues, that are bipolar or any kind of issues with stability in the mindset, they use uppers and downers because they can't fluctuate their mental capacity. So if they're too depressed today, they're going to use a stimulant to bring them up. But what happens is they get too high and they can't function. So they use the depressant to kind of bring that down. And it's an up and down, up and down, up and down. And they never reach a perfect dosage. So it's that's where all this stuff formulates. And people don't talk about this stuff. They don't talk about it because they're ashamed a lot of times, because they feel, I should be able to kick this. I can do it alone. I was given Percocet after surgery, just a few, and I saw how people get addicted. That's crazy stuff. And I only had like three of them. Yeah, that's true. That's real talk right there. Just having three of them and you get addicted to not only it taking the pain away, but you're the one that is in control of how much you can take, how quickly that pain goes away. Does anybody in the chat have any questions, any suggestions, any stories that you can share? Either one of you guys want to come up on panel really quickly and give any insight that you might have been wanting to talk about? Twiddle, you, Paula, Kim. There's not a lot of people in here tonight. Maybe it's a topic. Um, LA, Paula. There's not a lot. Jeff. Hopefully they'll watch it on replay, because it is needed, especially if you have any exposure to young adults. It's needed. It's needed to understand how quickly these things get out of hand really quick. And I was exposed to some new information yesterday, and I'm going to share it with you guys, especially you, Kim, since you're a teacher. They have a new vape pen that is in the shape of a Sharpie. So it looks like a Sharpie, it's shaped like a Sharpie, but it's a pen. It's a THC pen. And I don't know if you've been told that or if you've seen it. Um, it's it's interesting how how people try to get away with, you know, getting past not only the authorities but teachers as well to continue to get high. Kind of like this little thing right here. I mean, it doesn't look quite like this, but it's about this size, and it could be, a disposable pen, have THC or nicotine in it. Dispose of it. There's probably 5 hits in there or more, and you know, you have to be very mindful of what's coming into the schools. It's terrible. Terrible. And fentanyl is a very deadly thing. There's a lot of individuals hooked on fentanyl. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I will be back on Friday discussing um, some true crime, some actual true crime. Um, so hit the like button if you haven't already. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Um, please tell people about the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I hope you guys stay vigilant, stay safe. Kim, have an awesome new year of school. Tell Carlos I said hi. Um, I haven't watched any of the Olympics, so I don't have a clue what's going on. Twizzles, much respect, bro. You know, I don't form sides with people. I really don't. But sometimes people are right and they're right. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I don't want to discuss that case anymore for that reason because there's such closed mindedness associated with that case on both sides. And I was starting to become affected by that closed mindedness, by people's, it's almost like an obsession, you know? It's almost like an obsession. Hey, Heavenly, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. You guys say hi to Heavenly. I know her in real life, and I've asked her to check out the chat, check out the show. Um, but as far as that other case is concerned, and those other cases that have been around for a while, you're going to see certain things come out throughout the months until we get to trial. There are procedures that go along with these cases, and I've heard some logical procedures talked about whenever you are exposed to the criminal justice system. Sometimes the only thing you can do after a while is just wait it out, because you know eventually everything's going to come out. And if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But that case is going to eventually, it's going to manifest itself, and it's going to show, whether there was procedures broken, whether there was any kind of useful information, whether, they made up certain things, um, whether they fabricated and not been able to share the discovery because it doesn't exist, or if it does exist, what is causing them to hold on to it so long. There is a lot of questions in that case. I'm not naive to take one side. I'm not naive to say, well, he's this or he's that. And I hope that's why you enjoy coming and listening for all these months on that case. I've done a lot of videos on that case with my thought processes. So if you haven't looked in the library, there's plenty of Idaho 4 stuff that is being discussed now that I discussed months ago. And I give my impression and I give examples and I give, thoughts about it. So just because I'm not talking about it now does not mean that, I'm giving up on the case. I just don't feel like talking about it anymore because I went so hardcore really quickly, and I just got burnt out on it, I guess. So, I hope that you guys don't allow that case or any other cases that you may hear about to kind of kill your spirit, you know what I mean? Because a lot of you, if not all of you, are very, very insightful, very smart, very coherent to the vibe of the cases, so it's going to be interesting for sure. I might be going to I still am going probably to Moscow in November for no other reason than just see the area, man, just to check it out. Then I might do a live, not talking about the case, but I might do a live talking about my own perception of it, because we can all get a different perspective based on what we see and what we hear and what we observe. So I'd like to see Pullman also, I'd like to see that area because it looks beautiful. It's sad that such a sad case is coming from an area that, um, has put a blemish on all the things that are beautiful in that area, if that makes any sense. So Twizzle, we might have to get a steak, bro. We might have to get a steak or, something that is we can sit down and just shoot the bull, shoot the crap. Because I don't know. I've planned that trip for a while now, so hopefully that happens. If not, I'll eventually get there. Even if it's after the trial, I'll eventually get there because I want to go. I want to drive. I want to take the routes. I want to know exactly from my own mindset how long it takes, where the towers are. A lot of things that have been discussed. I want to know where the coffee shop is. I want to know those type of things. So that's all I got to say about that. As far as this methamphetamine stuff, I hope that you did learn something tonight and be very, very mindful of the dangers. And if you need help, I don't know if your state has a number that you can call, but I know here in Texas it's either star 211 or pound 211. If you are struggling, um, if you are struggling with addiction, please try to get yourself some help. Please do not try to detox on your own on anything because you don't know the psychological effect that it could have on your mind after the chemical is no longer in you. Um, I wish everybody the best if you're struggling with this. And if you obviously are in a high risk situation, please call 911 and get you some help because it's not worth your life. And that's all I got to say about that. Thanks, Twiz. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Heavenly. Thanks, all the people that have been in here. LA, Rondi, Jeff, all of you that make doing this a little easier. Rodney, you're new. Um, Open Mind Perspectives was in here for a little bit. So you guys keep on rocking, man. Keep doing your deal. Be vigilant out there and be very proactive with your life because we only get this once. We only get this once and try to be as positive as you can. All right? I'm gonna play some music while y'all chat a little bit and then I'm gonna cut it off. So I'm gonna let the maestro cue the music after the music plays, okay? So here we go.
I'm walking alone, the streets so empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feeling like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.